Hello, my name is Sarah Tabai, Library Information Literacy Director, and along with David Rulinger, Scholarly Communications Librarian, we are going to talk about finding your perfect match, selecting a journal for your paper today. Now, finding your perfect journal match is one of the most frequent questions David and I receive. And granted, there are over 30,000 journals out there, and it can get pretty rough to narrow down your search to a couple of good titles. But this is exactly what we are going to do today. So before we begin with a more complex search, let's just go over some initial questions because sometimes we forget about potentially easy options for making a shortlist. For example, what journals do you read regularly? And what journals do you cite in your research? What about journals that cite articles similar to yours? And where have you come across papers on similar topics? If you have noticed a trend, that could be a clue where your work might belong. Then think about where authors in your field publish. Would that be a good lead? And don't forget to consider where your colleagues and fellow researchers publish. Talk to them. And talk to your research coordinators. On a side note also, don't forget about Turo Scholar, our institutional repository, and Faculty Focus, the monthly newsletter that comes out of the Office of the Provost. A huge chunk of that newsletter each month is dedicated to showcasing faculty's presentations and publications, so check that out. And finally, if you haven't asked a librarian, please do so. So you may have created a shortlist that way, or you may say, Sir, I'm looking for a totally different journal this time. I'm looking for a journal that has an interdisciplinary audience. Or I'm looking for an open access journal that I can trust because I've received funding to publish in an open access journal. Or you want to publish a particular article type, and not every journal publishes every kind of article types. Either way, it is important to keep in mind the following 4 factors when you look to find the best fit: discoverability, suitability, quality, and reach.
So one thing that is extremely important is the discoverability of your paper. You want people to be able to find this research that you spent all this time and effort creating. So one of the best ways to make sure that people can find it is to make sure that you publish your research in a journal that has been indexed by one of the major curated databases. This means Scopus or Web of Science for more general topics in a variety of fields. For medical research, you want to make sure that it's a journal that's indexed in the National Library of Medicine catalog so that it ends up on PubMed. But more than this, we want to make sure that any research you create has a clear and correct affiliation to Touro University. One of the best ways you can do this is to make sure that Touro University appears somewhere in your affiliation, your school affiliation. And this is really important, especially for our ranking on the U.S. News and World Report that comes out every year. So we recommend that you take some time and make sure that your affiliation is very clear and says Touro University. So in order to kind of start, we're going to show you how to find a journal that is indexed in Scopus. And this is fairly straightforward. We're going to jump out into our web browser here. I'm going to start on the tourolib.org website. That's the Touro University Library's website. I'm going to click on this databases button down here under more research tools. And I'll just search for the database Scopus right here. There's a convenient way to get to Scopus. So here we are. And, we can do a normal document search here in the center. But what we're looking for is a list of the journals indexed in Scopus, which is up here on the upper right in the sources link. So I'm going to click on that. And so here we have a big list of every journal that has been indexed by Scopus. So as you can see, this is a little bit too many results here. We have over 47,000 results, which is more than I can really scroll through easily. But there's a nice simple way to kind of filter this and narrow this down. You'll see here in the upper part of the website, we have this drop down that lets me pick title. I could search by the title of a journal if I'm interested in finding a particular journal. But what I'm going to do is highlight the subject area field here. And so this lets me search by subject area. So I can search for, let's say, education, right? And you'll see that anything matching education pops up. And I can see here that education is under the social sciences. And so if I click that and hit apply, there we go. So now we've narrowed it down to a little over 1,800 results, which is much more manageable. And you will notice that this list is sorted by something called CiteScore. That's a journal metric. It's a kind of metric based on the number of citations the journal has received overall. We'll get into that a little bit later, but just recognize at this point that you can sort this list by a number of different things, including the CiteScore, the highest percentile, the number of documents, percent cited, and some other citation metrics like the SNP and the SJR. So we can sort it by highest percentile or the number of citations total, and that'll give us some more sort of ability to sort of go through this list. I'll also mention that you can search the National Library of Medicine catalog, and this will give you an indication of whether or not a journal is indexed for what's called Medline. That means that it's indexed and it will show up in PubMed. So here's an example of what that looks like if we searched for Lancet. We can see here that the journal is currently indexed for Medline. We could also filter by journals that are currently indexed for Medline on the left. So that's an easy way to do that.
So suppose you found a couple of potential titles that you like. One of the first things we recommend and also do ourselves is to check the publisher's website, where you find lots of important information at a glance, such as first decision time, acceptance to publication timeline, the journal metrics. You will also find the official journal's description. This is usually where we find a brief overview of the journal's history, plus the subjects it covers and its research focus. What do they publish and what do they not publish? In the aims and scope, they usually go into more detail about the types of articles they publish, such as the original research, reviews, if reviews, what kind of review papers, do they publish opinion papers, what about position papers? Reviewing the aims and scope also helps you determine if your research aligns with that of the journal. Browse the articles that have been published to assess the quality of the journal's content. Are they of high quality and relevant to your research? Look for errors. A simple spelling mistake is a red flag for me. Also check out their open access options if you're interested in it. And what's their peer review policy? The quality of peer review is another thing that a lot of folks are checking out. For one thing, a good and high quality peer review improves the strength of your paper. In the author's submission guidelines, check for formatting requirements. Are they asking for particular styles such as APA, AMA, Chicago style, or is free format submissions accepted? What are the word count limits? And what are the reference formatting rules? Please make sure you avoid last-minute surprises because reformatting articles can be time-consuming and frustrating. And also, one other thing that I wanted to add to this is sometimes when you go to the publisher's website, you find call for papers. Take a look at those. Also, see if you can identify current trends and topics of interest in that way, and take advantage of publishing opportunities for trending themes. Another way for finding suitable journal titles would be by using journal finders. You can search JANE, for example, which stands for Journal Author Name Estimator, in a variety of ways. You can add the title of your paper or the abstract of your paper to it. It then will search your document against documents in PubMed and gives you a similarity score. Now, I have shown this to some of you in the past, and you have expressed concerns about the confidentiality of it. I just wanted to let you know that JANE doesn't store submitted abstracts, but I also highly recommend that you read more detailed explanations about all of it on its website. So for this example, I used an abstract on autism. And as you can see on the top of the slide, it says these journals have articles most similar to your input. So the confidence ranking is basically telling me that the American Journal of Nursing is one of the most suitable journal titles for my abstract on autism. The confidence rankings is obviously the highest is on the top, and then it goes down to the lowest. It also tells me where the journal is being indexed, and here it says Medline. So we know that's a huge database, and that's a good thing for many reasons, and among them for the discoverability of it. And then on the third column, we see it says article influence. And based on JANE, article influence measures how often articles in the journal are cited within the first 5 years after its publication. So in simple terms, it means this shows me the impact factor of the journal. And one thing that I wanted to be clear about is that if the confidence ranking and the article influence are two different concepts, they have nothing to do with each other. The confidence ranking might be high and the article influence or the journal impact low, or the confidence ranking might be low and the article influence much higher. So they don't have anything to do with each other. They are two different measurements for two different concepts. And the last column shows me that I can click on see whether the articles that are being published in the journals that are, if I'm, say, for example, interested in the American Journal of Nursing. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, it's important to check out the previously published articles because we can assess the quality of them, and we can also see if they are truly relevant to our publication. So there are many more journal finders out there. One of them is Elsevier. Elsevier is a huge publisher, so there's the opportunity to find a right journal through Elsevier. The only drawback is that it searches journals only published by Elsevier, which makes sense. And also just keep in mind that other big publishers such as Taylor and Francis also have these tools available. So I used the same abstract that I used for the example for JANE for the journal finder here in Elsevier, and it gives me a different list of titles, which I like because I can now look at a variety of different titles for my research. And it gives me a lot of information right away, like what's the impact factor of the journal, what's the site score, and what's the time to the first decision, and stuff like that. And also, if I want to publish in open access, what's the APC chart? So I would highly recommend that you check out Elsevier as well. So, and this is the last journal finder that I wanted to talk to you about today. It's called the Global Journal Database. It provides you with a more general selection of journals, and just make sure that when you search for journals, it requires a minimum of 5 sentences, and they should have periods. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything. Again, I use the same abstract on autism to search for titles, and it gives me totally different titles. Plus a lot more information on the metrics of the journal and where it's being published and all that kind of stuff. So check it out. So you've done the hard work and written your paper. You have also identified a few journals that interest you. Now it's essential to confirm that they are reputable and trustworthy titles before you publish in them. Because even when visiting a publisher's website, it's possible to overlook red flags indicating that they might not be operating in good faith. So this website, Think, Check, Submit, provides an excellent checklist to help you evaluate journals before submitting your work. We highly recommend that you review it carefully. For those considering open access, publishing the checklist highlights the importance of verifying whether the journal is listed, for example, in the Directory of Open Access Journals, DOAJ. Journals included in the DOAJ meet certain criteria to ensure quality, such as clear policy on peer review, transparent information about article processing charges, APCs, and an editorial board that is truly consisting of experts. These are hallmarks of reputable publications. The checklist also points to other valuable directories that can help you identify trustworthy journals. And here are a few questions from a much longer checklist that is available on Think, Check, Submit. And here's one more journal evaluation tool. The rubric is actually much stricter than the Think, Check, Submit checklist on many of the quality measures. And the rubric has also a score sheet, and after you've gone through the different criteria, you get a score, and the score tells you if the title that you chose to publish in is a good choice, a fair choice, or a poor choice. So check that out too.
So now we have our short list of journals that we're interested in. We've made sure that it's a quality journal. We've made sure it's discoverable. Now we want to start thinking about, who is the journal's audience? Who is this journal going to reach, right? How broad or how narrow is that audience? Is it a kind of a general science journal that has all sorts of fields publishing in it? Is it something that's very niche? For example, a journal regarding a specific disease or a specific type of statistics or a specific category of economics. And once we've thought about who we want to reach by picking this particular journal, we can start looking at the journal metrics. In general, that kind of means looking at the number of citations, the quality of the citations that are coming in and going out of a journal. You can sort of think of this as how prestigious is that journal? How impactful has this journal been on this particular field of study? So as I showed before, Scopus, if I jump back over here, we'll show you this list of journals that we looked at earlier in a way that you can sort them by a variety of citation scores. So let's jump into the detail view of one of these journals. Here's one called Computers in Education. We can see a variety of details here, but here on the right, we can see here's the cite score that we were sorting by before. Here's something called the SGAR and the SNP. I'll point out here that you can click on these little eye arrows, or these little eyes, next to the cite score and these three measures, and it'll give you a description of what that citation score is. So this one sort of measures the average citations per document, right? Sort of a simpler way of measuring citations. The SJR will sort of try to give you an idea of the prestige of a journal by weighting different citations based on the journals that they're coming from. So it's a more complicated metric, but it sort of gives you a good idea of, you can think of it as a prestige metric. And the SNP is trying to measure the actual citations received against the expected citations for that subject field. So for all three of these scores, An easy way to think about them is higher is better, right? So regardless of what they mean, a 4 would be higher than this, which would mean that it's a more prestigious journal according to the SJR. So if you look over under the site score metrics here, it'll show you the site score and the rank. So here we can see that it is, according to the site score, rank number 1 in the field of education, which is the 99th percentile. We can also see it over time. So if we click this site score, rank, and trend, we can see how this has developed over time. So we can see that the site score has been going up year by year by year. These are the blue bars here. And then we can see the percentile in the category has been right at the top for the last few years. So I will jump up here and we can click on this link that says compare sources. Maybe we want to compare this journal against a few others, right? So we can select up to 10 journals to compare to this one. Here it's loaded up the journal that we were just looking at, right? So computers and education. Here's the site score over time since 2011. And I can look at a number of other charts, the SJR by year. I can look at the SNP by year. We can see all these have gone up over time, but perhaps I would like to find another journal that I want to compare this against. So I'm going to select one here. Let's say I want to compare it against Review of Educational Research. So I'm going to type that in here, Review of Educational Research, and I'm going to hit enter, and you'll see it showed up here. So if I just click this check mark, here it's placed the Review of Educational Research Journals SNP score on this same chart. So I can see that the Review of Educational Research actually has a higher SNP score and has maintained that over time since 1999. I can also do it by site score. I can do it by SJR. So, you can look at this and say, well, according to the SJR, it looks like this other journal might be considered to be a little bit more prestigious in terms of the citations it's receiving. But if we looked at the total number of citations per year, we can see that computers and education actually gets significantly more citations every year for the since 2011 or so. We can also see the number of documents per year. So we can see, well, that might be because computers and education is putting out a lot more documents every year than Review of Educational Research. So there's a lot you can look at here. There's a lot you can sort of discover by making a list of journals and comparing them with this tool. If you're interested in reading more about publishing and topics in publishing in different journals, journal selection, we really encourage you to check out this Torah Publishing and Scholarship LibGuide. It has all sorts of information on how to select journals, how to determine quality of journals, avoiding predatory journals, different resources on peer review and open access. So there's a lot here that we'd love for you to check out. But for today, I'd like to thank you for watching. Please check out any of the links in the description of the video, and I'll see you next time.